Hey everyone. In today's video, you're going to hear the story of Dr. Nathaniel Blake, a skeptical surgeon who was dead for 6 minutes and came back with a shocking revelation. Reincarnation is real, and the church has been hiding it from us. What he saw on the other side will shake everything you believe. So go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. And drop a comment below telling us which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this message can reach. Get ready. This story is truly mind-blowing. My name is Dr. Nathaniel Blake. I'm 47 years old and a cardiovascular surgeon in Salt Lake City, Utah. From a young age, I was shaped by logic, science, and precision. I grew up in a traditional Mormon family, but since I was 20, I abandoned the faith. I saw a lot of senseless pain in hospitals, many deaths too cruel to be explained by a God of love. Little by little, science replaced my need for belief. It was all chemistry, biology, chance. Nothing beyond that. I was recognized in my field. Colleagues admired me, patients thanked me. I operated on hearts, but mine was shielded against any idea of a soul. You die and that's it. End of the genetic code, end of the game. No heaven, no hell, no fresh start. On the morning of November 14th, everything changed. It was supposed to be a simple surgery. A 58-year-old obese man with completely blocked arteries, triple saphenous bypass. I had already made hundreds of the same ones. But there was a tension in the air that day, something I couldn't explain. My assistant even joked, "Are your hands shaking today, doctor?" I laughed, feigning confidence, but inside me, an inexplicable anxiety was growing. During the procedure, I started to feel a strange heat rising in my chest. I thought it was stress. I continued operating, but suddenly everything went dark. My body fell onto the operating table. A fulminant arrhythmia, they said later. My heart, ironically, had failed. But I didn't die, not completely. I found myself out of body, floating above the table, looking down. My colleagues screaming, shock being applied to my chest. One of them shouted, "Pressure dropping, where's the defibrillator?" But I wasn't afraid. I felt relief, as if an old weight had been lifted from me. For the first time in decades, my brain, or what I thought was my brain, was silent. There was only a calm conscience, an indescribable lucidity. Suddenly, everything around me began to dissolve into light. A golden mist filled the environment, and from it a presence emerged. It wasn't human, but it wasn't scary either. It had a beauty that hurt to look at. It was a being with wings, yes, but not like in children's books. He had a gentle authority, as if he carried ancient truths in his eyes. He called me by name. And that's when everything started to fall apart inside me. Everything I believed to be real was just a small part of the story. "Are you ready to see what you denied all your life, Nathaniel?" he asked, without moving his lips. The voice was inside me, and even without understanding it, I knew it was. I was ready. The angel, or whatever that presence was, didn't need to touch me. When he reached out his hand toward me, we were transported. We don't walk, we don't fly, we were elsewhere. A plane of soft light, as if the air vibrated with a life of its own. There was no sun, but everything was illuminated. A light that did not hurt the eyes, but penetrated the soul. I looked around, trying to understand. Is this heaven? I thought. The entity looked at me and smiled as if it had heard. No. This is what between. The word resonated with me like it had layers. The place where souls awaken before you remember who they really are. I felt a shiver, like this before remembering. Who was I but Nathaniel Blake, surgeon, father of 2, convinced atheist? That figure got closer. You're in transition. Part of you is still stuck in life. Part of you has already started to remember. Remember what? I asked, but this time out loud. The doubt, the fear, the logic wanting to get back in control. What you always knew but hid beneath layers of reason. What your spirit cried out for, but your mind silenced. the truth about life and death. That place began to transform. Images appeared all around us, not like projections, but as if reality itself was being peeled back to reveal what lay beneath. I saw children running, getting in and out of bodies as if they were clothes. I saw old people leaving with smiles, and at the same time babies being born with looks that carried centuries of memory. You are seeing the cycle, Nathaniel. Reincarnation is the backbone of spiritual learning. Each life a lesson, each death a transition. No one is here for the first time. I was shaking. It was beautiful, but also terribly confusing. But this contradicts everything I was taught. Salvation, eternal heaven, the final judgment. The entity looked at me with deep regret, like a teacher who needs to tell a student that he spent years studying the wrong book. These ideas were shaped by men who wanted control. The fear of death is a prison, and few systems are as effective at maintaining that prison as misinterpreted religions. I felt a lump in my throat. It wasn't just my childhood faith that was crumbling, it was my entire concept of reality. So, why were we never told that? Why hide the truth? He looked down, and the ground beneath us opened up. I saw a church, huge, golden, full of believers, praying. I saw the pulpit, the priest, and behind him, hidden from the faithful, shadows of ancient religious leaders, debating among themselves, manipulating speeches, cutting out passages from sacred texts. A voice echoed in the room. They knew, but they were afraid that people would stop obeying. I felt a physical pain in my chest, as if my soul was being pierced by an ancient thorn. The truth sets you free, Nathaniel. But first, it scares. I cried. For the first time, I cried in the spiritual world, because what I thought was the end and was just an interlude, and what I thought was a lie, was the realest part of all. After the sight of the church and leaders hiding the truth, the scenario around us has changed once again. The angel, whose presence I now felt almost like an extension of myself, guided me down a corridor of light that curved in a spiral as if we were being sucked into a cosmic memory. Everything was silent, but at the same time loaded with meanings that I couldn't explain. It was like being inside a divine thought. We arrived at a kind of gallery suspended in nothingness. Below us I saw thousands, no million about of points of light. Each of them was a soul. Some shone with intensity, others seemed dull, tired. They were all waiting for something. These are souls waiting to be reincarnated, said the angel, without me needing to ask. Waiting? Why, can't you just go back? He looked at me patiently. Each soul returns when the cycle calls, when the right circumstances align, when there is something to learn, or something to repair. And then, I started to see. A point of light stood out. It glowed brightly and began to descend, as if being attracted by a magnetic field. The vision got closer, and I could see that soul entering the womb of a woman in labor. She was crying, surrounded by doctors, an ordinary hospital somewhere on Earth. But the most impactful was the consciousness of that soul. She knew exactly what she was doing. I saw her thoughts as if I were inside her. This time I will learn to love without control. This time I will remember who I am. My entire spiritual body shivered. Do they choose the lives they will have? I asked. They choose the challenges, not the details. It's like accepting the script for a play before going on stage. The performance may vary, but the essence of the lesson remains. I didn't know whether to be amazed or terrified. It contradicted every biology class, every Sunday sermon, every book I had read. More visions emerged. I saw a man who had been an executioner in the Middle Ages returning as a nurse, caring for the sick with compassion. I saw a woman who had been a neglectful mother in a past life, now being reborn as the daughter of a cold mother, to feel firsthand what she caused. I saw a fanatical priest being reborn an atheist, like me, to learn to question his own dogma. It was a dance of consequences and learning, where no one was punished, but everyone was invited to grow. "Is this justice?" I asked. "It is love in its purest form," replied the angel. But then I saw something even more disturbing. Some souls refused to return. They were afraid. They had been traumatized. And what cut me deepest? Among them, I recognized a look. Family. I pulled the focus and saw my father. He had died of cancer 6 years ago. We never talk about spirituality. He was closed, rigid, like me. "He is afraid of starting over," said the angel. "He still carries pain, guilt, shame. You can help him, but only after you understand your own cycle." That disarmed me. My father, lost. And I, always so sure of everything. I knew nothing. It was time to remember. The angel reached out his hand, and suddenly everything around us dissolved like smoke in the wind. Now, we were in a room that didn't seem to be made of matter. The walls changed with my thoughts. As I remembered moments from my life, they turned into scenes, as if the space itself was connected to my soul. In the center, there was a translucent table, and on it rested a book. But it was no ordinary book. The cloak seemed to be made of liquid light pulsing like a heart. When I touched it, I felt a gentle shock, like it was touching me from the inside. "This is the record of your consciousness," said the angel. "Every life you've ever lived, every choice, every emotion, every thought." I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to know. But there was something stronger than fear, an ancient curiosity. I opened the first page and was sucked into it. I saw myself as a young Roman warrior. His eyes were hardened, his hands were covered in blood. I fought for honor, but I carried hatred. I saw the death of an innocent man, killed by my order, and with him, the look of the child who saw him die, a little girl with green eyes who cried in silence. The scene dissolved, and another appeared. It was a medieval monk. Me. Isolated, writing scrolls, obsessively studying the soul and guilt. But what hurt most was the coldness. I denied love, I denied my body, I denied myself. He was merciful to others and cruel to me. Then I saw a brief life. I was a poor girl in India who died at the age of 7. I saw my mother in that life, the same soul that is my daughter today. The love we felt for each other existed long before. The connection was unbreakable. Every life had a pattern, an emotional cycle that repeated itself. Control, fear, silence. I was afraid of not having control, so I hid behind dogmas, logic, force, and this fear, this rigidity infiltrated everything. My relationships, my profession, my fatherhood. "You are not just Nathaniel," said the angel. "You are the sum of hundreds of existences, each trying to remember its essence." I looked at him with tears in my eyes. "And what is my essence?" He didn't respond with words. He just pointed at my chest, and an intense light shone there, inside me. I saw love, but not romantic love. A love that was state of being, that didn't require anything, which it just was. Everything was silent. I fell to my knees. My arrogance, my certainty, my science, collapsed before the truth that could not fit into formulas. And for the first time, I understood the reason for the pain, the reason for the losses, the reason for the failures. Every life was an opportunity to remember who I was, before I forget, to fit into the world. After the revelations in the book of my lives, I felt like I was being reborn from the inside out. It was strange. I was dead, or at least out of body, but I had never felt more alive. My consciousness was expanded, as if I could touch time with my hands. Past, present, and future intertwined like threads in a cosmic tapestry. The angel guided. me to a balcony of light that opened onto something that looked like a vortex. But it wasn't chaos. It was movement, purpose. Inside it, I saw scenes of lives being started, families being formed, deaths being accepted with serenity. I also saw souls meeting again, like old friends in a cosmic airport. It was as if each existence was orchestrated by an invisible intelligence that acted through love and freedom. "Now you have a choice," said the angel. "You can continue on this plane for a while longer, learn more, or you can return to your body. Not as before, but with consciousness." I froze. The idea of going back seemed absurd to me. After everything I saw, how could I live in the physical world with the limitations of the flesh, of routine, of ignorance? But then he pointed to something that took the spiritual air out of me. I saw my wife Sarah sitting in the hospital, alone, crying with his head in his hands. My two children, Liam and Ellie, at home, trying to understand why their father wasn't coming back. And I also saw my father. His soul was still stuck in that limbo of fear, observing everything from a distance as if he was looking for an answer in me that he never found in himself. "Your return is not just about you," said the angel. "You will be a breaking point, a link of transformation. If you return, you will take fragments of the memory, not all of it. It would be unbearable, but enough to plant doubts, provoke questions, open doors." I felt a mixture of honor and terror. "What if I don't want to go back?" I asked. "Then another soul will take on this mission. But your children will grow up without you. Your wife will carry the pain. And your father, maybe it will take him one more cycle to accept the light." I was silent. The choice seemed impossible. But something inside me, something old, bigger than fear, sparked. It was the same force that had made me seek answers since childhood. The same restlessness that science has never satisfied. I want to go back, but with a purpose. The angel approached, touched my chest, and a light penetrated my essence. I felt myself being reconfigured. Parts of me were sealed, others left open. "You will forget much of what you saw, but you will not forget what you felt. The memory will come as intuition, as dreams, as certainties that you cannot explain. Use this wisely." I started to get pulled. I felt a weight, as if I were being plunged into concrete. Visions faded one by one. But before everything disappeared, the angel whispered, "Tell the truth, even if they call you crazy." And then everything went dark. The first thing I felt was pain, a sharp pain in my chest, as if my heart had been mended with a hot iron. And then, the air pressure rushing into my lungs, the shrill sound of the heart monitor, muffled, screams, hands running over me. "He's back. We have a pulse." I opened my eyes, but the light was too aggressive. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. My body was shaking, cold as ice, heavy as lead. I was back, in the hospital, in my body. But it wasn't the same body as before. For days I was recovering in the ICU. Doctors said it was a miracle. "You were dead for almost 6 minutes," said the cardiologist. "We don't know how there was no neurological damage." But I knew. I knew something inside me had been touched, changed, reordered. The nights were the worst. Strange, intense dreams visited me. Dreams about children entering bodies. Dreams of a living library made of light. Dreams about my father, still caught between two worlds. When I woke up, I couldn't explain any of this. It was like trying to describe a sound to someone who was born deaf. Sarah, my wife, was by my side the entire time. He looked at me with a mix of relief and fear. "You look different, Nate," she said one day, holding my hand. "It's like I'm somewhere else, even with my eyes open." She was right. My mind returned to that balcony of light, to the book of my lives, to the angel's gaze. I wanted to shout to the world what I had seen, but I knew no one would understand. I was a respected doctor, a man of science. Who would believe in post-cardiac arrest delirium? Even so, I started leaving clues. I asked for a notebook. I started writing compulsively. Sketches of memories, drawings of faces I've never seen in this life, symbols that came from nowhere. The nurses thought I was having a meltdown. One of them discreetly asked me if I wanted to speak to a psychiatrist, but I was more lucid than ever. Physical rehabilitation was quick, emotional, not so much. In the mirror, I saw my own eyes and didn't recognize them. It was as if I were a visitor inside my own body. My senses were heightened. I felt the sadness of the people in the hospital like a cloud around them. I knew when someone was going to die before the monitors even announced it. And there was an urgency. Something inside me screamed, "Speak up, tell what you saw, break the cycle of fear." But how? Who I was before the NDE would never dare say anything. But now, even though I was shaking inside, I knew I couldn't pretend anymore. The truth wouldn't leave me alone. The impulse was growing inside me like a fever. It wasn't just a desire, it was a mission, almost a silent command that echoed in me day and night. I needed to tell. I needed to break the cycle of ignorance, guilt, and fear that imprisoned so many souls, just as it imprisoned my father. I knew that if I kept quiet, this new life that was given back to me would have been in vain. But the fear was still there. The old fear. From ridicule, rejection, loss of respect. I was a renowned doctor, surgeon, a man of statistics, scalpels, and protocols. How could someone like me stand in a pulpit or in front of a camera and say, "I died, saw an angel, and was shown that reincarnation exists"? It would be my professional end. But ironically, perhaps it was my beginning as a human being. I started discreetly. I told Sarah first. She listened to everything in silence, with tears in her eyes. "I felt it," she said. "When you were in the coma, I dreamed of you in a place of light. You told me that you would come back, but that it wouldn't be the same." That gave me courage. I spoke to a close friend, a psychologist. I thought he was going to laugh, but instead he listened attentively. And then he told me something that stuck with me. "It's not because you experienced something outside of the medical protocol that it's invalid. Maybe, precisely because it's outside of it, it's true." The following week, I recorded a video with my cell phone. I spoke without a script, with a trembling voice and my heart in my throat. I reported my NDE as if I were talking to someone very close, without trying to convince, just count. I posted on a discreet channel without my real name, and I went to sleep. The next day, the video had 28,000 views. In the comments, hundreds of people said, "I saw the same angel. I was also in that place between lives." I always felt that reincarnation made sense, but I was afraid to believe it. I cried, not out of sadness, out of relief. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't alone. But not everyone reacted like that. I received emails from colleagues calling me irresponsible. One of them wrote, "You're throwing your credibility in the trash." Another confronted me at the hospital. "Are you turning into one of those internet gurus now, Blake?" I took a deep breath and answered calmly, "No, I'm the same surgeon, only now I know that the heart is not just a pump, it is a mirror of the soul." Tension hung in the air, but inside me, for the first time, there was peace. The truth is uncomfortable, but it also frees, and I had finally begun to remember who I am. Over time, the video went viral. Invitations came for interviews, debates, spiritual podcasts. I refused them all. That wasn't what I was looking for. I didn't want to become a symbol of anything. I just wanted the message to reach those I needed to remember. But something still kept me uneasy. An image that haunted me in my dreams. My father's gaze, still trapped in that place between worlds, always at a distance, always watching, but without the courage to cross. It was eating me up inside. My father has always been a difficult figure, austere, reserved, a man from the silent generation. You never said you loved me, never apologized. When he fell ill, it was too late for conversations. The disease progressed quickly and he left as he lived, in silence, hiding the pain. But now I knew. The soul does not die when the body stops, and what is not resolved here is still there. During a meditation, something strange happened. I began to feel a presence in the room. It wasn't a hallucination, it was real as the chair I sat in. I closed my eyes and was taken as if by a breath to a space between shadows and light. There he was, my father, but different. No body, just energy, still with that hardened look, as if asking for permission to speak, something he never did in his life. "I failed you," he said, his voice breaking. "With you, with your mother, with everyone." My throat closed. "You didn't know how to love, Dad, but now I understand. You were hurt, and you passed that pain on." He lowered his head. I let myself be consumed by fear, by guilt, by the belief that there were no second chances. Now, I can't go on. I'm trapped. And then I realized the same prison that prevented him from moving forward, I also carried, in another form, the fear of not being accepted, to tell the truth, of making mistakes. We recognized each other at that moment, not like father and son, but as two souls seeking liberation. I approached him and said what I never said in my life. "I forgive you, and I love you." For the first time, without expecting anything in return. That light I saw in my chest during my NDE shone again, this time in both of us. My father cried. Yes, souls cry too, not with tears but with light. And in that instant, he disappeared, but not like someone who runs away. Disappeared like someone was finally accepted by the light. I woke up in peace, crying, but lightly. That day I realized that speaking about spiritual truth was not my only mission. My true mission was to love, even those who didn't know how to love back. After that encounter with my father's soul, something changed in me irreversibly. It wasn't just a change of beliefs nor an emotional outburst. It was an axis change, as if the internal compass that previously pointed to prestige, success, and control now points to only one thing: truth with love. Sarah noticed. She said I looked at her differently, that my silence had stopped being distant and was now welcoming. My children then. It was with them that I most felt the impact of my new consciousness. Liam, my eldest son, age 13, has always been closed off like I was when I was growing up. It didn't express much. But one night, as I was putting him to sleep, he looked at me and asked, "Dad, you really died, right?" Hesitated for a second, but I didn't lie. "Yes, son, I died and I came back." He was quiet. Then he whispered, "I dreamed of you, in a place full of light. You told me you were going to come back, but that you were going to bring us something." My skin crawled all over. I hadn't told him details. But children still carry the bridge with the invisible. They feel the truth before understanding it. "And what did you bring, Dad?" The question caught me off guard, but then without thinking I replied, "Courage, to be who I really am." He smiled. He closed his eyes, and he slept as if he had just received a blessing. In the following days, I returned to the hospital. He was still a doctor, he still loved surgery, but now there was a new perspective. I began to see people as ongoing stories, not just diagnoses. I started holding patients' hands before surgeries and saying, "You are not alone." Some were crying, others just smiled, and every now and then, I saw in their eyes the sparkle of the soul that remember, even if for a second, that life is not random. Sarah and I began studying spiritual topics together. She has always had a foot in this world, but now we have become accomplices in something bigger. We started having small meetings at home with friends to talk about spirituality without dogma, just sharing experiences, intuitions, silent healings. One day, between these meetings, a lady said something to me that shut me up inside. "Doctor, your story freed me from the fear of death. I was ready to give up on life, but now, I think I want to see what else I can learn before I leave." That made me cry, not because I was someone's hero, but because I understood definitively that living with conscience is the greatest miracle of all. And if I, the skeptic, the rational one, the surgeon, could remember this, then perhaps anyone can. It's been 2 years since the day I died and came back. Sometimes I still find myself staring out the office window, lost in thought, trying to understand how I, a skeptical surgeon from Salt Lake City, was ripped away from the logic of the world to see something that human words can barely touch. Science is still part of me. I don't reject it. She saves lives every day. But now I know that it is just one of the floors of the house. There are other levels, invisible, subtle, deep, where the soul breathes, learns, and continues its journey far beyond the last heartbeat. Today, I live more lightly, less certainties, more questions, and this openness is liberating. I don't know everything. I don't even want to know everything anymore. But I know enough not to live in fear. I know that life is not a rehearsal, and it's not a single sentence either. She is a chapter in a book that we are writing with our choices, pains, and loves. I remember clearly the last thing the angel said to me before I returned. "Tell the truth, even if they call you crazy." I've been called crazy, yes, by colleagues, by religious people, even by old friends. But something curious happens. After a while, many come back, in secret, with teary eyes. I saw things too. My grandmother told me something similar before she died. Am I going crazy? Or am I starting to remember? That's when I realize the truth doesn't need to be shouted. She just exists, waiting for the soul to be ready to meet her again. Today, when I walk into an operating room, I am still Dr. Blake. But inside me, I'm just Nathaniel, a spirit in transit, fulfilling a role, learning with every heartbeat, including mine. And if you've come this far listening to me, if something inside you trembled, maybe this memory is yours too. Maybe you're starting to remember. From the light, of choice, from the journey, of the truth that was whispered to us before we were born, and that now, little by little, begins to echo again. You are not here by chance. You are not alone. And death is not the end. She is just the bend in the road behind which someone waits to remind you of who you always were. If you liked this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment on your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.